There is one thing almost every survivor of a narcissist has once believed: that they are the most confident person in the bedroom. They enter that space with the posture of someone untouchable, magnetic, bold, as if they hold absolute control over every breath. They make you believe they understand you, reach you, and connect with you in a way no one else ever could. But the truth lies on the opposite side of that image. Behind all that practiced mastery is a trembling fear desperately trying to hide. It is difficult for anyone to accept this, especially those who have lived inside a toxic relationship, because for you, the bedroom was the only place where the hurt paused for a moment, where they stopped being cold, where they stepped closer, where you felt, at least here, they mean it. You thought the intensity was love, connection, harmony, but in reality, it was only the smoke they created to cover up a truth they are terrified you might see. That if you looked deeply into their eyes, you would realize just how empty they really are. For a narcissist, sex is not intimacy. It is a carefully staged performance, not to feel you, but to prevent you from feeling them, not to love, but to keep you in the illusion that they are powerful, profound, passionate, when inside they are nothing more than a void with no emotional capacity. And that is why, in this video, we will explore 6 of the deepest fears a narcissist carries when it comes to sex and intimacy, fears they are desperate to conceal, because the moment you recognize even one of them, their entire structure of control begins to collapse. Fear number 1, the fear that you will not believe they are the best lover you've ever had. This fear is the root of everything they do in the bedroom, the reason why every movement feels dramatic, powerful, almost magical. They cannot allow you to think the experience is merely normal. Because to a narcissist, sex is not closeness, it is a mirror for their ego. If you fail to melt the way they expect, if you do not fall under their spell, the entire identity they built begins to crack. In many toxic relationships, the bedroom becomes the only place where anything resembles love. Outside of it, they may be cold, distant, and dismissive. They may punish you with silence, distort conversations, or make you doubt your reality. But once the door closes, they transform into someone else, passionate, attentive, as if finally revealing who they truly are. This sudden shift confuses your emotional system. You begin to believe that this is the real them, and everything else is just their wounded side. But the truth lies in the opposite direction. The tenderness in the bedroom is a technique. They do not make love to connect. They make love to bind you to them. They study you, your breath, your reactions, your expression, as if collecting data to perfect a performance. For them, your emotions are irrelevant. Your admiration is the only currency they recognize. The more you believe no one does it like they do, the safer they feel. Their fear is not losing you. Their fear is losing your enchantment. Because they know, once the intensity no longer blinds you, questions will arise. How can someone be passionate for minutes but emotionally absent for months? Why do you feel held at night but abandoned by morning? How can they control your body so effortlessly but ignore your heart so completely? And once you ask these questions, you will never see them the same way again. That is why they must convince you the sexual experience is special, rare, irreplaceable. They need to anchor their power in the most intimate part of your life. If that illusion breaks, you will finally see what they have been hiding. The intensity was never love, it was a tool. And here lies the part they fear most. The moment you no longer respond, no longer tremble, no longer feel mesmerized, is the moment their entire power collapses. Fear number 2, the fear of being exposed as empty. When the initial illusion of their perfection starts to tremble, perhaps only as a faint feeling inside you, we step into a deeper layer of fear, one that the narcissist hides at all costs. If their first fear is failing to make you believe they are the best lover you've ever had, then the second fear strikes directly at their core, the fear that you will see how utterly empty they are in moments of intimacy. This is not a fear they speak about. It is a fear they avoid even within themselves, because they know better than anyone that when they enter the bedroom, the only thing they truly bring with them is not emotion, but a mechanism, a rehearsed imitation of intimacy, repeated like a memorized routine. Many survivors tell the same story, even though their experiences are different. He felt like he was performing. She seemed like she was acting, not actually present. And, painfully enough, that is the truth. A narcissist does not enter intimacy with their heart. They enter with a pre-programmed script. Every movement follows a formula. Every rhythm is repeated the same way. There is no natural softness, no genuine presence, no moment born from emotional depth. Their body participates, but their soul stands entirely outside the experience. In the bedroom where two human beings should meet in their truest form, they bring a cold emptiness, like a room with no living presence. And because of that, they fear slow moments more than anything else. Because slowing down demands presence. Sustained eye contact demands honesty. A slow rhythm demands connection. Silence demands a soul capable of feeling, and they possess none of these things. They know that if the pace softens, you will immediately sense the hollowness beneath the intensity they create, because that intensity does not come from emotion, it comes from fear of being exposed. But their deepest fear lies in something even more subtle. They are terrified that you will realize every bit of connection you felt did not come from them, it came from you. You are the one with emotional depth. You are the one who understands intimacy through feeling, not technique. You are the one who brings warmth into the moment, filling the emotional space they cannot fill. You are the one who creates closeness through imagination, empathy, and genuine connection. And them? They simply stand there and take credit for what your heart generates. When you understand this, everything becomes painfully clear. Their empty gaze is not distraction, it is the absence of anything to give. Their cold touch is not impatience, it is emotional incapacity. Their fast, forceful rhythm is not passion, it is fear that slowness will expose their facade. They keep everything fast, intense, and overwhelming to avoid being seen. Because if you truly looked, if you allowed the moment to slow down, you would realize what you called intimacy was merely your own heart reflected on an empty surface. And for a narcissist, nothing is more terrifying than the moment you finally see that truth. Fear number 3. The fear that you will realize they have no real feelings for you. There is one truth a narcissist never dares to confront. Even in the most intimate moments, they cannot feel love, not for you and not for anyone. This is not a choice. It is an emotional void embedded deep within them, a barren ground where affection has never taken root. And because of that, they are terrified that in one moment of stillness, one moment of slowing down, you will finally see the truth. A person who truly loves you softens in your embrace. Their breathing slows, their energy melts into yours without needing words. A narcissist cannot do that. Their hugs are stiff, cold, or overly intense, not out of passion, but out of performance. Attempting to imitate closeness instead of allowing it to happen naturally. They never sync emotionally with you. They never let you touch the real part of them, because that part is empty, and they fear you will run the moment you see it. Ironically, they hold you not to feel close, but to hide the emotional distance between you. They use physical closeness to conceal the truth that they cannot love, cannot feel, cannot connect. But the fear does not end there. They also fear you will realize this. The desire you thought they had for you never existed. It was all imitation. You feel emotional, they mirror emotion. You grow passionate, they match the rhythm. You feel connected, they pretend connection. It looks harmonious, but the only person truly feeling anything is you. You lead, and they follow like a shadow. This synchrony is not real. It is simply them copying you, borrowing your warmth to cover their coldness. They rely on your emotional depth to animate a moment they cannot emotionally participate in. And when you finally step back and observe, you will see a painful but liberating truth. The relationship never had two emotional participants. It was you and the fantasy you projected onto them. When this awareness arrives, every layer of their performance begins to crack. At this point, Their greatest fear is not your reaction, it is your gaze. Because your gaze has changed, it now sees them clearly. And for a narcissist, nothing is more terrifying than being seen by the very person who once loved them wholeheartedly. Fear number 4. The fear that you will see. They use excessive sexuality to hide their true self. If the first 3 fears expose the emotional emptiness inside a narcissist, then the 4th fear reveals another layer of their defense, the layer built from intensity, performance, and exaggerated masculinity. It is the armor they wear when their core is cracking. And the irony is this: the louder they become, the more terrified they are. Hypersexuality is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of panic. Many narcissistic men do not display exaggerated sexuality because they have a high sex drive. They do it because, deep inside, they are battling an unbearable insecurity about their worth, their identity, and sometimes even their true orientation. But instead of facing that truth, they build a stage. They need you to believe they are very masculine, very powerful, very straight, very normal. The painful truth is, they do not believe that about themselves. They desperately want you to. So they flirt with anyone to prove what they lack. They brag about their sexual performance as if it were armor. They turn every conversation into something sexual, so they can appear dominant and confident. They sleep with many people not out of desire, but out of fear. Fear that if they stop, if they become quiet for even a moment, you will begin to see the fractures. The louder they are, the more they hide. The more they perform, the more they run from themselves. And the deeper fear is this: they know they do not experience genuine sexual connection with women. There is no emotional pull, no energetic resonance, no mental or spiritual attraction. Women, to them, are props, tools used to reinforce an image, not partners they feel authentically drawn to. Their role is to maintain a mask, not to build intimacy. This is why their intensity often feels forced. Their movements lack warmth, and the moment the act is over, they detach instantly. Because they were never truly present. They were acting the role of a normal man, hoping you wouldn't look too closely. And if you ever did, if you watch them with the clarity you are slowly reclaiming, you would notice. Their intensity does not come from passion. It comes from fear. Their exaggeration does not come from confidence. It comes from defense. Their over-sexuality is not an expression of strength. It is an attempt to plaster over a deep internal crack. And this is the truth they fear the most. You will realize that all that intensity is just paint. Underneath, they are simply an empty space, trying desperately to fill itself. When you see this, not through emotion but through understanding, their power collapses instantly. Because nothing destabilizes a narcissist faster than being seen accurately. Fear number 5, the fear that the truth about their sexual health will be exposed. If the previous fears revealed their emotional emptiness, then the 5th fear uncovers something darker, something they cannot manipulate away. The possibility that every sexual health problem you ever experienced came from them. This is no longer about emotions, no longer about wounds of the heart. This is about your body, the one thing you believed they couldn't violate. But they did. And the most disturbing part is, they knew. It is not accidental that they lived recklessly. Asterisk, they knew they were sleeping around. Asterisk, they knew they didn't use protection. Asterisk, they knew they didn't get tested. Asterisk, they ignored warning signs in their own body. Asterisk, and they dragged you into risks you never consented to. So what terrifies them? The moment you connect the timeline. Because once you look at the before and after, the truth becomes undeniable. Before them, you were completely healthy. After them, everything began. They know this. They watch the changes in your body, and they live in constant fear that one day you will pause, look back, and realize every scare, every infection, every medical visit, every moment of fear, all of it traced back to their recklessness and silence. Their terror is not just about the risk itself, it's about what the risk reveals. Asterisk. They didn't just harm your emotions. Asterisk. They didn't just manipulate your mind. Asterisk. They jeopardized your physical safety, and possibly on purpose. Survivors often discover that the narcissist noticed symptoms long before saying a word. They saw the signs. They felt the discomfort. They watched changes in your body. And still they said nothing. That is not neglect. That is exploitation. That is violation. And in many cases, it is a crime. But their deepest fear is not legal consequence. Their deepest fear is you. You who can connect details. You who is slowly regaining clarity. You who can look directly at the truth without flinching. Because once you understand, asterisk, they were unsafe, asterisk, they were dishonest, asterisk, and they never cared about your well-being, the entire image they built collapses instantly. No more strong man. No more passionate lover. No more deep connection. Only the naked truth remains. A person who used someone else's body as a shield for their own recklessness. And that moment when you finally see what they've always tried to bury is the moment they fear the most. Fear number 6. The fear you will tell the truth about them. And then, just when we think we have reached the end of their fears, another one emerges quiet, shadowed, yet more destructive than all the others combined. Because if the previous fears expose their insecurities in the bedroom, the 6th fear threatens their entire identity in the real world. It is the fear that you will speak the truth, not because the truth is cruel, but because the truth is accurate. A narcissist can manipulate emotions, twist narratives, and distort your perception, but there is one thing they cannot withstand: the truth, spoken by someone who once loved them. Their entire existence is built on 2 pillars: illusion and reputation. They don't need virtue, just the appearance of virtue. They don't need goodness, just the illusion of it. They don't need authenticity, just the belief that they are authentic. That is why, in every relationship, they behave like a director, scripting themselves as the victim, inventing tragic backstories, portraying themselves as the ideal partner, telling everyone they are constantly hurt by crazy exes. But behind the curtain lies a completely different person: controlling, manipulative, emotionally abusive, deceitful, and often cruel. They know this. You know this, and they fear you will reveal it. Their real fear is not the truth itself, but the truth told out loud, because one honest account, one clear description of what you endured, one moment where you break your silence, and the mask they spent years constructing will crumble instantly. That is why they separate you from friends, from family, from community. They know that when you are isolated, you stay quiet. When you stay quiet, they stay safe. To them, every social interaction is a PR war. They act kind to your family, charming to your friends, moral and successful to co-workers, and a victim of crazy exes in every new relationship. But everything they built can collapse with one truthful sentence from you. And they know this. If you speak, you break the illusion. If you share, you break their power. If you reveal details, you break the narrative they depend on. What terrifies them is not emotional pain, but the accuracy of your witness. Not vague memories, but lived experience. Not impulsive accusations, but the calm truth of someone who is no longer under their spell. And that is why they fear you most. Not when you cry or break or beg, but when you become calm, when you find your voice again, when you begin to tell the real story. Your silence once protected them, but your truth? It can destroy the entire world they built on lies. Now that you've walked through all 6 fears, perhaps you can finally see what once felt impossible to grasp. The narcissist was never powerful in intimacy the way they wanted you to believe. Every ounce of intensity you mistook for passion was nothing more than a carefully engineered disguise, an attempt to hide their shame, their hollowness, their terror of being exposed. You were never weak for confusing sex with love. You were simply human, longing for connection, warmth, and presence, the very things they have never been able to offer. And as this understanding settles in, another truth begins to surface. You do not need them to heal. You don't need the apology they will never deliver sincerely. You don't need a final conversation to close the chapter. You don't need their acknowledgement, their clarity, or their validation. What you need is to return to yourself, to the body that once held the weight of their manipulation, to the voice they tried to silence, to the intuition they tried to disconnect you from. Let this sink in gently, like a soft echo in a quiet room. Your awakening is what they fear the most. Your silence is the end of their power. Your healing is the victory they can never undo. A narcissist can only manipulate you as long as you remain disconnected from your own truth. But once you see who they really are, the performance ends. Not with chaos, not with retaliation, but with the quiet strength of someone who finally chooses themselves. And if right now you find yourself somewhere in the middle of this journey, hurting, confused, overwhelmed, know this: you are not alone. You deserve peace. You deserve love that is safe, steady, and sincere. And above all, you deserve to walk away from anyone who harms your body, your heart, or your spirit. This journey was never about understanding them. It has always been about returning home to you.